I want to first of all say hi to everybody. This has been an incredible, crazy ride of the past month. I've said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. I feel like Loot is a time machine to the future of humanity. How work will get done in the future, how people will come together in the future, how decentralized, trustless, permissionless teamwork and proof of collaboration will drive global change and global progress. But it's not just a time machine to the future, it's also a time machine to the center of a tornado. We're just in the eye of a tornado right now. I think some people are asking questions in the Loot Discord, even like, where is everybody? What's going on? Is this project slowed down, etc.? And of course, it's true that it's slowed down with respect to trading on OpenSea and the crazy speculative stuff and all the VCs that popped in and more. But in terms of building, things are at an all-time high right now. You got builders on this phone call. You've got builders in the background. You have builders around the world who it's 2 a.m. for right now, 5 a.m. for right now. If you're listening to this later, sorry that you couldn't join. Maybe we'll play around with some time zone stuff going forward. But when I talk about builders, I also want to expand that notion to everybody. Builders don't just mean developers, and they don't just mean coders. I tweeted this the other day. Maybe I'll share this tweet again because to me it feels like a really powerful lightning rod for us. I believe in 10 years there'll be a generation of builders that say, I started with Loot. Now I work on DeFi, I work on games, I work on media, I work on utilities, I work on art, I work on whatever, but I started with Loot. And not meaning that I came to crypto through Loot. Sure, I've been trading Ethereum, I've been trading Bitcoin, I've been trading NFTs even, but I became a builder through Loot, a Web3 builder. And when I say builder, I mean devs in a broad sense, artists, writers, community builders, learners, dreamers, movement builders, creators, questers, all of us who are building together. And obviously we've built before Loot. I've built before Loot. Many of us have built plenty of stuff before Loot. But to me, Loot's opened my eyes to a new road. Like I said, Dom kind of handed us the keys to a time machine, said, go forth and go build with this thing. Maybe the time machine needs y'all to build it, or go to the future and go build that future and report back. But I know I am this builder too, and it's been incredible to see a community sort of unfold around this. I know I'm inspired by y'all too. Yeah, I'm definitely never the smartest person in the room when I'm in a Loot call. That applies to today too. So welcome. Excited to have everybody here. Loot is a community more than anything. Loot is an experiment. Loot in some ways is performance art. And I can promise that the next hour is going to be all three of those things. So back to you, Andrew. Let's rock and roll.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, that was a tight 2 minutes. Good job.
Nice. I was trying to find some notes. I didn't even have any notes on that, but it was better from the heart.
Nicely done. All right. So I think we're going to kick it off with the Loot character team.
Hey, folks. This is Afar. My name is Andrew, and I'm stoked to be here with Jemison, also known as Jordan, and Kyle. Jordan and Kyle, can you quickly say hi?
Hey, everyone.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
So it's really interesting to be staring at avatars all day, in Discord, as opposed to faces. It's also really refreshing than being on Zooms all day. I'm sure that folks can relate. I guess I'm curious if folks played, how many folks played the Riddle number 2. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. If you played the Loot character Riddle 2, can you just quickly demute, almost as if you're just sort of checking in? I see some icons. 1, 2. All right. So maybe for the folks who didn't play, I can give a quick background. Andrew, would that be useful?
Yeah, background, and I don't know if you want to share your screen or.
Yeah, Andrew, let's just play the game. Let's see your Discord. I want to play the game.
All right. Well,
that's going to make it click to everybody. Just you guys invented an entirely new construct in Discord. Let's show off how amazing it is.
Should I? Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
No, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I could share my screen and play, and you guys can kind of like talk over.
Sure. That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great.
I don't mind. Let me go find it.
Okay, so for the so if you don't know what Luke character is, let me just quickly start while Andrew's sort of getting set up. Bear Tracks is like a user that if you like scroll over sort of the users in this call, there's Bear Tracks. There's also Neotins. Those two users have a Loot character sort of design. That is courtesy of Kyle. We designed those as sort of like associative NFTs, which simply means it's like tied to your underlying loot bag. Is Andrew's stream coming up for other folks, or is it loading?
Can you see it? It's
looks like it's loading.
It's loading for me.
Yeah, it's still loading.
oh, shoot.
You know what? Since Andrew's the one who's doing the Loom, I have a feeling that sharing a screen on Discord might fuck with Loom. Can somebody else share their screen?
Good call.
Hey, Jemison, would you mind actually sharing yours?
Let me give it a shot. The issue is to try to not be biased towards any guilds. We don't have many loot characters. So let me fire up a hardware wallet that I think has one. So give me a second here.
Okay. So quick background, we essentially wanted to build a system a game that encouraged users to discover other content. That was sort of the premise of Loot Character. What were things that we loved, that we grew up with, that we thought were really cool, and could we create an excuse for people to go off and have to like experience these other things and like, find clues or answers or whatever to a set of riddles that we created. And so in Riddle 2, we decided to base it off 3 books. We essentially built a system that was designed that is a text-based adventure, which we're going to show you in just a second once Jordan is fired up. And you essentially have to have read the books or be really good at sleuthing in the books and coordinating with your guild to find the answers to various riddles. And Jordan came up with an extremely clever way of visualizing this game, which we're going to show you in just a moment, hopefully. And along the way, we thought it would be really good to create some incentives. So if you got through sort of the process, or you won each of the paths of the riddle, you would both be rewarded with an NFT, sort of a unique NFT, and you'd be rewarded with A gold. And apparently, we don't talk about A gold here, so forgive me, but that was sort of the currency we decided to just kind of go with because it was liquid. Tim, was there something you were going to say? I saw some folks like jump off mute. Or maybe that's just a Genesis icon.
The only thing I was going to share with you is that I think there's probably some questions who don't know or some people who don't know what associative NFT might mean. And someone in general chat also asked a question that associative NFT would be the answer to. So maybe you can explain that quickly.
Yeah, totally. So if you go to faq.density, that's my day job, faq.lootcharacter.com, you'll see a description of what an associative NFT is and does. It's essentially a non-transferable NFT, meaning this image, this little icon that you can see with Bear Tracks, the user, or with Neotins, the user, this little Lego-looking guy, is permanently tied to your loot bag, meaning you can't just sell the thing. It's just tied to your loot bag. So whoever has the loot bag also gets this character. And that concept, the reason we did that was because we didn't want to create sort of commerce for these characters. We wanted the characters to be reusable in any game or any system that might want to remix stuff without any royalty or anything going back to the devs. We just thought it was a cool character with a fun layering system that could be used to visualize a loot bag. And so we designed it. Jordan and Kyle designed this so that it could be applied to any system. And this has shown up in a lot of other places. I think it's shown up in Loot Mart, and it's shown up in some like crazy 3D stuff that I've seen recently with like, I know we don't use the term metaverse, we use hyperverse, but like, we've seen the character showing up in like Super Mario 64 kind of thing. Oh, it looks like Jordan might be live.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, sweet. Okay, so
narrate this.
okay,
This is
great.
your lore.
So if you have a loot character, you can say play. So you can see Jomison says play. He then sort of authenticates, and he gets to choose the loot character that's associated with a bag. This loot character is a visualization of an actual loot bag. So the little icons at the bottom actually show whether or not it's like got a +1. Those little boxes that you see, it shows like the prefixes. It's got a whole bunch of things. So he's got rope caffeine here. He's going to choose 994. You've been walking for several days. Yeah, why don't you just play this, Jordan, and I'll just sort of do a voiceover.
Yeah.
Everything that's in here, this is a custom Discord bot that was built by Jordan. All of the text here was also written by our team. It's all custom. It was just sort of like a narrative that we put together. And you can play this fully in Discord. Now, there's a number of, if you actually stop here for a quick sec, you'll see that in this case, like to keep a pace with the setting sun, you hum to yourself the Bard song. What was his name? It was maybe this is not the one. Say yes on this one. Yeah, so there's a deep black opening. Look left or right. Let's look right. Okay, do you take the torch? If you say no, there's like a bunch of death outcomes, which are like super fun to write because they're like crazy death stuff. And I realized I have a very dark sense of humor. Really encourage you to play the game and like go try to die a bunch of times because there's like a whole bunch of fun text. Jordan, why don't you play this through as you're actually winning, not with the death scenes? But we realized that like the text is cool, but what we also wanted was a visual system. So Kyle designed this, and Jordan designed the development, did all the development so that we could use emojis. Awesome, or at least we
Can
thought
you
it was
do
super
Apple
cool.
Plus on your Discord so we can see it? Just like go
Can you zoom in, Jordan?
or Command Plus. Yeah, bigger. There you go. Nice. You can
You guys
put
see
that to
the,
the bottom left. You can. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Move that box over a little bit further to the left, Jordan, if you can, or down.
I
Or
can
just
make
zoom
it-
out. Maybe zoom out one bit there. There you go.
There you
Nice.
go.
Is that good?
Yeah, then your box can
Uh,
go down to the bottom left too.
Say that again.
Yeah,
Is
your
Try
box.
to art direct your
Move your
screen sharing.
box.
Nice.
that good?
Yeah, that's fine. So anyway, you could sort of navigate through this dungeon crawl, like an actual dungeon crawl in visual, and then we have this little area down below that shows like the actual text that gets associated with where you are. You arrive at sort of a choice, and then you get back into the text-based adventure. So I'm going to kind of pause there. If there's folks who have any questions. This was like super fun to do, and it took so much freaking time. Like it was, I mean, I don't know, Jordan. It was well over 100 hours.
We knew what we wanted. Like we knew the experience we could create, and so it was worth putting in the time. And I think I, as most engineers do, underestimated the time that it would take. I think another like interesting thing is like this was never meant to be in Discord, but the inspiration came when we had to essentially build our own bot because of how the associative NFTs are kind of tied to guilds. And so Collabland essentially didn't work for the setup that we had with guilds in our contract. So we had to create a custom Discord bot, which then turned into the inspiration for this because we were like, if we're already putting all this work into Discord and authentication, we might as well play the game in the place where we all are spending most of our days when it relates to crypto and loot. So that was kind of the inspiration for making the bot as well.
Anybody have any questions here? A couple other cool things to talk about, but wanted to pause and make sure that if anybody's curious about anything.
I mean, I got a big question for you. Is that did you invent this? Is this like an entirely new UX for the hyperverse gaming? Like I've never seen anything like this, and it's freaking incredible. Has anyone seen anything like this?
I had not seen anything like this before we built it, and I don't think like I will say, like, as you saw as we were playing the game, obviously it can feel, I guess for lack of a better term, janky at times because like the image kind of goes away. So we were really like bending Discord backwards to like make this thing work. No, but I hadn't seen it before.
But I think that the core elements are actually pretty familiar. We're talking about essentially like bitmap gaming, which we thought it's very rudimentary with like the images. And then text-based adventures go way back to like Zork and like the MIT like Zork game that was released, ages ago. So this is very familiar, I think. It really didn't feel like there was anything here that was like totally groundbreaking, but we're just using sort of the tool that everybody uses and Discord does not like us. Like Discord is not like easy to bend in this direction, but it was super fun. And the decision trees behind this are also reasonably complicated. We spent a lot of time trying to make sure that like the choices actually had some consequence, and it was not entirely clear what to do or what not to do. Other things people are curious about? It's live now. You can go play if you'd like. And if you need like a loot character and you don't want to like buy one, we can like lend you one if you're just curious about playing. But we just thought it was a really fun experience to both build and to try to connect it to other stories. That is actually one thing I wanted to mention is like people were in and like reading books to go figure out the riddles. And that just, is very heartwarming that people were like wandering and going, exploring these different technology or these different stories and then bringing those answers and, guesses and questions into their guild. And then they were coordinating on whether or not, what the right answer was. And Jordan, Kyle, and I, we like watch as like the guilds sort of make their decisions and coordinate. Every single time we are just dying laughing, like just so much pure joy, just dying laughing at like, I think someone in Unknowable was like, I don't know what just happened. A little kid, I tried to help the little kid and I died trying to help the little kid. And we were just laughing so hard. So I really want to thank everyone who played this game because it brought us so much joy to like watch you all like coordinate and laugh and try to tackle these things as a team and then ultimately, be rewarded for those things. But ultimately it really wasn't about the reward. It just, the experience felt very, very real and super fun. And we just, that was very cool. Very rewarding.
I love it. Pure joy. You know that I'm a huge fan of pure joy through the loot verse. I know over the past, few years, I've kind of honed my definition of joy. And I think everything you described fits right into it. To me, joy comes out of thin air through teamwork, through learning, and through finding good within yourself. And your stuff kind of hits on all that. Maybe more the first two, but just learning how to do something like this, learning through a book, teamwork, all of us going. I mean, I think your belly laugh was probably that feeling of like, look at our team, our extended team. All of a sudden, like we're together. We all belong together. It's incredible. Andrew, congrats to you guys.
There was one thing that I remember, and Jordan, you can stop sharing unless folks want to keep seeing the game, but like it sort of follows this pattern where like you have text adventure and then you have, an image to navigate through and then you have text adventure and then like you win a reward or you don't. But Andrew, it's Gould, right? Or Andrew G.
Yeah.
Were you the one who solved the first riddle with Lunar Mayor?
Scott and Lunar, yeah.
Yeah.
They solved it. I had no idea what was going on.
But right. But it was the three of you, right? It was like three of you trying to tackle this problem.
Yeah. Yes.
So Andrew said something that I think was very much the inspiration for why we wanted to do Riddle 2. He said something while he was like while they were working through this. What ended up happening was, and maybe you've read the Herald piece on this, or maybe you haven't. By the way, if I'm talking too much, just tell me like, Andrew, you're done. Like,
yeah, I think wrap after this thought, and then we're gonna flip to Flute.
Great. So Andrew, essentially what ended up happening was there was a technical limitation for those who were technical because they had hardware wallets. And they needed to enlist Andrew to solve the riddle for riddle 1. So Andrew goes in and solves the riddle. And as he's going through, he comes back into the unknowable Discord. And he says, "Oh my God." He takes a screenshot and he shows what just happened. And he says, "My heart is beating so fast." And when, do you remember what I'm talking about, Andrew?
Oh my God. I was freaking out. I was so excited.
And when that happened, there was just this moment of like this thing that we like thought was silly and stupid and fun and like, let's just build it and see what happens, gave someone else this like very cool human experience and a team sort of this very cool human experience. And just wanted to say that was very much the inspiration for wanting to do riddle number 2. It was super fun, and we appreciate everybody who played. And if you'd like to play, you can go in and it's still live. And we're happy to help you troubleshoot. There's a dedicated Discord called Flute Character that you can go to. It's all in the outpost. So thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Thanks, Andrew Jordan.
+1. That was awesome. Thanks.
All right.
No problem.
Who do we got next, Tim?
I'm going to ask one more question to those guys. Just answer this with a number. How many days or weeks until people can expect the next riddle?
This is actually, I think, something that I think a lot of people are feeling, is we put in a lot of hours into this. We're not exactly sure how to sustain the game. And we're open to like talking about ways to do that. It's not so much just about financials, it's just the time. So we're not sure, but I think we're committed to doing another one. We don't have a specific number of days, but the time is really material, particularly if you want it to be good. If you want the experience to be new and novel and good, as opposed to just a rinse repeat.
All right,
So,
dude, let's brainstorm a Genesis Loot character crossover riddle that we can do next, so we can pool our resources and pool our time together. You heard it here first.
Amazing. Let's do that.
All right, let's carry on. Thank you, guys. FaBC, welcome. Floor is yours.
Thanks. I just wanted to say first, what you guys done that Luke character is really cool, and I now feel pretty sad that I didn't have time to take part of that journey, because now I'm really hoping there's going to be Riddle Part 2, because it sounded a lot of fun, and brought me back some memories of another project that had something similar. It was more of a puzzle than a riddle and adventure, but just having groups being formed very sporadically and organically, and having people like try to rush to get to the first solution. I had a few evenings like this in other projects, and it was just so much fun too. So good on you guys to create that kind of content for people. And hopefully there's Riddle 2, and I'll look into how. I'm gonna try to see if there's ways that I have ideas to make it more scalable for you guys to survive that production of content. Okay, so I wanted to briefly talk about Flute and Familiar. And Flute, for those who have never heard of it, I'll give a brief description, but basically it stands for Floor Loot or Familiar Loot. I guess it's been alternating between these two, but the idea was that we would basically issue these NFTs very much in line with what Loot is, but they're familiars, they're creatures. And the idea with every purchase of these creatures, we would take the money that is contributed, and we would start buying a bunch of floor loots, and we would create this ideally massive collective of that owns hundreds of loots, and we would take all these loots, put them in fractional art, and create shares, ownership shares of that entire bundle. And the idea here for initially was to try to bring the accessibility to the lootverse, and make it more accessible to people. Whereas especially back in the days when it was like the cheapest loot was like 8 ETH or 9 ETH. Even today it's too expensive for most people. this idea of being able to say, well, I can own part of a loot or part of a bundle of loot was very appealing. And this is really where Flute and Familiars came from. People spend some ETH, they acquire a familiar, and then with the familiar, the money we obtain, we purchase loots on OpenSea in the market. And later on, and we still haven't done that part yet, which is what I'll try to give an update tonight, but we haven't, later on we would take all the loots, put them in a fractional vault, and then distribute the Flute token, which would be an ERC20 or 1155, I'm not sure yet, but it would be a token that would act as a share ownership that people would basically be able to do stuff with. So that's what Flute and Familiar is, and not much. We have a couple of updates and things I wanted to mention, things to look up for. So recently there was some voting on what, because there's a few things that are problematic with fractional vault, but right now we accumulated 37 loot as a collective, and before we logged them in the vault, we were considering claiming some of these, so some NFTs, because once the loots are in the vault, then it becomes very difficult to access to some of the derivative projects that are currently existing. Future projects can adapt and help with a better ease of usage for these loots that are in the vault. But currently, if we log the loots, then there's a lot of assets that we won't be able to claim as a collective. So one of the vote that is ending tomorrow is, should the familiar Flute and Familiar collective mint Genesis mana, and or should they, and with the Genesis mana, should we resell them and purchase more loot? Should we mint them and try to collect a resurrected Genesis adventurer? If we do a little bit of trading, because we don't have any, because I think we have access to something like 70 Genesis mana. So it's pretty significant. And that's often, of course, to just mint them, do nothing, or don't mint them, and whoever wins the auction of the vault, if it ever happens, could claim them later on. And so far, it looks like people are more interested in collecting the Genesis mana and try to trade them to have a few Genesis Adventurer. I'm not exactly sure how many we would get, but it's going to be a really fun coordination game, I think, where we'll be able to trade our own Genesis mana as a collective to acquire the ones that are needed to create the Genesis Adventurer. So that's where the vote is leading to. Should end tomorrow, and then there's another vote that is not really being engaged, but some people were considering launching on the sidechain or layer 2. But I don't think the loot verse is yet committed to any change at the moment. There's some discussions other than being on mainnet, so we'll probably just stick with that. And yeah, when that discussion is completed and the Genesis mana are claimed, minted, traded, then we will likely start putting all the loots in the vault, fractionalize them, and allow people to claim their Flute after that. And yeah, that's kind of like an overview of what's been happening in the last 2-3 weeks for Flute, and what's coming in the next few weeks as well.
Hey Fab, just to put a final bow on it, I think you got the Genesis mana part, which is awesome, and I want to make a comment, but just a final bow for everyone who's bought Familiars and is excited for your project. What's the timeline for essentially distributing it and like launching phase 2?
Well, the good part is the moment we agree on Genesis mana, then we can literally claim them, which will take a bit of time because we need to write a small script to do it efficiently, and the gas prices are pretty crazy these days sometimes, so we'll have to just be diligent about this. But the moment they claim, we don't even need to have the Genesis Adventurer then. The moment we claim the Genesis mana, we can already lock all the loots. And the good thing with fractional vault is you can always add in more assets in that vault later on. So yeah, hopefully it won't take too long to claim the Genesis mana if that's what people decide. Just have to think of what's the most efficient way to do it, because there is a lot to claim. and it's going to be costly. So do that, and then hopefully that would take roughly a week of time. And once we have that, then the fractionalizing the loot is probably another week of work less. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Cool. I'm going to share this just in case some people don't know what you're talking about with Genesis Mana. I'm not going to explain it, but I'm just going to share this link in the general chat. But I love it. I do want to just comment that I think this, similar to some other stuff that's been sort of unprecedented going down, I think this is unprecedented. If you do this and we do this, what's happening here is like the ultimate proof of collaboration, because the Genesis adventurer who gets resurrected out of Flute will be a proof of collaboration squared. It will be a team of people coming together to buy these familiars and put into a pot as a community wallet, and then from that community wallet buying loot, and then from that community wallet full of loot minting these mana, and then as a community building and designing and resurrecting the particular Genesis adventure that the team is excited about, and then writing it back to the blockchain, which all the way back through the chain comes back to the individual person who bought a familiar. I think that is unprecedented. I can't think of anything else that fits this precedent or paradigm. So amazing to the community to boldly raise their hand to do something that sounds kind of complex, but I think may open up like a whole new concept for builders. So hats off to everybody. All right, thanks, Fab. Super cool. Anybody have questions or comments or plus ones or high fives to Fab? Actually, let me pull up the familiars too. I actually do have a last question, Fab. If somebody was inspired by your conversation right now, can they still buy familiars or no? Oh, do we lose Fab? Did we lose me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Fab. He's muted.
Sorry, yeah, my headphones died in the middle. I had to switch. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying, there's still there's about close, I think, to 1,000 familiar left. The total amount is close to 8,000. So technically, every contribution is going to lead to more loot being purchased, put in the vault, and every familiar owner is going to receive a proportional share of Flute once they're distributed. So there's still time, and there's still going to be time after Flute is distributed, because basically, yeah, it's going to be a fixed amount claimable per familiar. So even if some familiars are not minted yet, people will be able to say, hey, I want to claim some Flute. I'll buy a familiar. I will mint a familiar from the contract. The contract is some contribution, and then with that familiar, you'll be able to claim more Flute. So there's going to be some interesting economic dynamic as well once the Flute is distributed.
Nice. Through the insanity of OpenSea, which one of these three things is the right one?
It's the let me just I need to zoom in. Yeah, the one you're mousing over, 140. Yep.
Cool. And then for someone to do what you're saying, they go.
If you look at the description, there's a explainer of how.
Nice. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're interested, here I'll just put the link in the channel too. I'll put this in general. Cool. Sweet.
Thanks, man.
Up next, we have a special guest who's been hiding inside this chat this entire time. I don't know if you guys have all seen her, but just this morning, through the spirit of performance art that's been passing around lately, just this morning, somebody emerged through the mist. And I'm very excited to introduce you to her and have her introduce herself to our community. The Mage Queen, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself? I've got your Twitter open.
Yes, so I am the Queen of the Divine City, and I am the leader of the Ministry of Mages. So
Wow.
I think one thing that's been very concerning to our citizens today is that I don't know if any of you have noticed, but a mist has descended upon the Divine City, and panic has been going across the streets, but I want to remind everyone to remain calm. I'm going to consult the grimoires right after this. I'm going to enter into the sanctuary and evoke the ritual of our ancestors and try to get some revelation there for us.
Remind us who you are. We talked briefly before this, and you introduced yourself to me in private. Is this you?
Nope. It is the next one.
Is this you?
80. 4580.
4580. Right here.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tell us about yourself.
So I have a tome which I'm going to crack open pretty soon here. I think we need to find some answers about exactly where this mist comes from. For all the citizens of Divine City, we've never experienced a mist before. We've had clear sunny days for as far back as our ancestors can remember. I have the divine robe, which I'm hoping to wear soon if I have to invoke the ministry of the mages. I do have the crown from my ancestors and the bright silk sash, as well as some silk slippers, linen gloves, an amulet, and a bronze ring.
Alec or Shlomes or somebody else, I'm sure you guys have a million questions for the Divine Mage Queen. Or anybody. We've got our first official character of Flute who's just joined our Discord.
I have so many questions, but I don't even know where to begin.
Shock, actually. I mean,
I'd love to know how you got your position and what your background is.
My position was passed down to me from mother to mother ever since the founders of our city founded the Divine City. My ancestors were the original mage queens of our city, and was one of the original spellcasters to suspend our city in the sky.
That's amazing. Do you have any ideas yet? What's causing the mist?
I know that there's some concern among the citizens that perhaps this is natural. We are, after all, a city that's floating in the sky. Perhaps there is some odd phenomena occurring in the environment. I have some suspicions of my own. You know, as the mage queen of the city, I've been the keeper of the grimoires for some time and have access to some of the secrets of our ancestors that the citizens haven't been able to access in quite some time. I am hoping to kind of go into some meditation over the next week or so and really take some time with the grimoires to see if I can't figure out exactly what's happening. And as soon as I find out, I will report back.
I was shocked when the Mage Queen introduced herself to me, because if you haven't seen this sheet yet, I just want to quickly share, and Mage Queen, you can pile on as well. But through the 8,000 OG loot bags, if you look at all the items carried by these characters, through 8,000 bags, there are only a sum total of 27 full characters, like full mage, full hunter, full warrior, where every item is one of these. And like you just said, you are 4580 right here. Maybe one of the only crowns. If I filter this to crown, I guess I can't do that right here on the fly, but there are only really two. Maybe tell us about the other. Do you know anything about 3511?
I do know that the wands are going to come into play soon here. I do know that the citizens should be aware that even though I want everyone to remain calm, there are some developments. I have had some visions recently. There have been some omens that have been presented to me by the ancestors, and I do want to take some time to fully let those guide me before I can reveal what has been exposed to me via revelation.
Shalom, Alex. What do you guys think?
Queen Mage, we're getting an alert. We need to get you actually out of here right now. I'm getting into. We can't explain anymore, but please remain calm. All will be fine. Divine City has survived for hundreds of years. It'll survive onward.
The Secret Service is sweeping her off the stage. Mage, final thoughts?
The House of Foxes will not tolerate such secrecy.
There you go.
All will be revealed in good time. From where I sit in the top of the Divine Tower right now, I can't see the city through the fog, but please be aware that I am watching, and I will be aware and let you know as soon as I know anything more.
Thank you, Divine Mage.
Divine Mage, welcome back. All right, well, I don't know if I can stay in character, but with that, thank you so much for hopping on. We do have a couple more exciting things here, and so I think in the spirit of lore, we want to jump over to a really exciting discovery in the lore. Last time we were on here, we talked about the full character classes, and we talked about how through the original contract, if you dive into this original contract, it turns out that Dom was hiding full characters right inside the contract in plain sight. If that's fresh to you, pop to the Notion doc and it'll all click. But what we hadn't done yet, some of the open questions, are what's going on with the prefixes and what's going on with the suffixes. Let me go back a screen here. By prefixes and suffixes, I'm talking about these things. The Bane, Spirit, Apocalypse, Roar, Armageddon, Bite, etc. This has been a mystery. And just last week, there was an epiphany through two community members, Onusel and Lockett. They too have just unlocked a pretty incredible breakthrough around what's going on with this contract and what's going on with these prefixes and suffixes. And I wanted to give you guys a chance to explain to this community because it was pretty profound.
Hi, hello. I think I'm the only one here. I don't think Onusel could make it, but that's fine. I'm ready to take the flame.
Nice. Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to drive from this side?
I can share my screen. I've got a few
right.
slides.
Slides,
I might be
yes.
I came prepared. So 1 second. Hard to follow up from Queen Mage.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Okay, I'm hoping that you can see my screen. And 1 second, I'm just going to have to let my cat in the room because he's scratching on the door. So can you see my screen? And can you hear me still?
Yes.
Yep, we got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so as you were saying, this is all to do with the meaning in the prefixes. And like you said, if you're not aware of what the prefix is, these are these words that appear before some of the items in loot. So for instance, it could be the Death Tier Divine Gloves of Vitriol or the Apocalypse Sun Linen Hood of Enlightenment. And these appear, I guess, seemingly randomly. They're not on every single item, and there's different combinations of these. So I'm going to go into that now. And yeah, just before that, when you see these prefixes, they kind of beg the question, like, what is the meaning of them? Is there any reason why some items get these, or some linen hoods are the Apocalypse Sun linen hoods and some aren't? So that's kind of what we're kind of looking into. And of course, the kind of starting point for all of this, or any loot law, is to start at the contract. And in the contract, we see that these prefixes are actually split up into two parts, so two components. There's the name prefix, which is the first word of the prefix. So in the example of Vengeance Whisper, that would be vengeance. And then there's the name suffix, which is, in this case, whisper. And so this is the same screen that you just shared just now. So you can actually, I think there's some noise. Somebody mute. So you can actually see in the contract all of the name prefixes possible and all of the name suffixes. And there's 69 name prefixes and there's 18 name suffixes. So what's kind of, or something that, Tim, you pointed out when we spoke last week was it's quite interesting that the name prefixes are in alphabetical order, and yet the name suffixes aren't. So there could be some indication, if you want to kind of surmise here, that the name suffixes have potentially been put into a specific order. And so this next slide is actually what Onacell shared, I think, a week or two ago. And this is actually showing the combinations of the prefixes and suffixes that are possible. So just bear with me here. Sorry, I'm just, one second. So if you look at these three different laws, law A, law B, and law C, actually these prefixes and suffixes can only occur together within the laws. So, for example, the prefix vortex can only appear with the suffix sun, roar, root, tear, whisper, and glow. You can never have vortex with moon, because that's from a different law. That's from law B. And what's even more interesting is that these prefixes and suffixes in law C, they don't actually ever appear in any lute, and they never will either. It doesn't matter how many lutes are generated, those prefixes and suffixes are never ever going to appear. And that's just a quirk of kind of the way that these prefixes and suffixes are generated. And I think it's really, really interesting in that they are there written in the contract, but for some reason they don't show. And I think it would be really cool if anyone can kind of see any sort of groupings here or any connections. Like, is there a reason why, for example, demon is in law B and dragon is in law A? We know from the relative powers that demon has a higher relative power than dragon, and maybe there's kind of something here going on with the laws as well. Or if there's anything else you see with the suffixes here, like sun being in one of the groups and moon in another group, could that be to do with dark and light? But yeah, it would be really interesting to hear what anyone else kind of makes of this.
I just have to be the first to call it out. Maybe we should do a quick unmute here. If this is clicking in people's minds the same way it clicked in my mind last week when Onacell and Lockett surfaces to me, this is freaking magical. I mean, even look at the demon dragon thing that you just called out. This could have gone any direction. This is native to the contract. You could have 1 trillion loot bags, and you'll never have a dragon moon, and you'll never have a demon sun, and you'll never have a demon shadow. It will always be these groupings of 23 and 6, 23 and 6, 23 and 6. Yep. It's the math is insane. And look at those two that you just called out. A dragon who we believe is light, sun, and roar. A demon who we believe is dark with a moon and a shout. And a beast maybe on the other side. A beast with a shadow and a growl. Seems pretty purposeful to me.
Yeah, it's hard not to kind of see those connections.
Anyone want to unmute and just give your mind blown comment here?
Kudos to the observation.
That's pretty awesome. It's a lot to take in. Thank you for sharing. This is great.
Is that the order? Like when I look at sun, roar, root, moon, shout, bite, is that the order in the contract? Is that how they're...
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No. So that is... It's, in some items you have like
No.
vortex raw before the item. So it's not related to the order, although you need to have an order in order to have a prefix and a suffix.
Oh,
No, he means like the order it's printed in the contract, though. I think not.
Sorry.
I think it's not. Yeah.
No, it's not. But I can share what the order is.
I'll link to the Notion as well.
So if that's all sunk in, there's just a couple more extra details that I also kind of investigated after Owner Self shared this. So the first is the link to greatness. And for anyone who doesn't know what greatness is, it's a score between 0 and 20 that's assigned to every single item in your loot. So every item has a greatness score. And what we find is that law A, so for any item that has a greatness of 19, you will have a prefix and a suffix from law A. And for any item with a greatness of 20, you will have a prefix and a suffix from law B. And something interesting, so actually just stepping back for a second and looking back at the contract, we see that we only give out name prefixes and name suffixes if the greatness is more than or equal to 19. So like I said before, it ranges between 0 and 20. So only for 2 levels of greatness are name prefixes and name suffixes given. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of look at what would happen if we took this condition away and we were to give name prefixes and name suffixes for every single level of greatness. And what we would see here is kind of an alternating laws for every level of greatness. So, for instance, if you could have a name suffix and name prefix for greatness 18, then they would get the law C name prefixes and name suffixes. So when I first saw this, it kind of like, for me at least, it pointed towards perhaps there being a missing level of greatness, or maybe law C having been wiped for, say, greatness 18. And that's kind of what screams to me here. I don't know what other people think about that, but it just seems like there's something missing. The fact that they're written in the contract, but they're not used, and
oh my god,
it feels like something has been wiped.
This analysis is blowing my mind. I've got literal goosebumps right now. If anyone's been paying attention to the Genesis project, we have a construct that we derived from the contract called lost mana or lost items. The contract suggests the existence of lost items, and I had no idea what their names would be until essentially just this moment. The lore C greatness 21 is the lost mana name.
Mm-hmm.
That mana, those lost items or that lost set of prefixes and suffixes, even through synthetic loot from 2 to the 64th power, will never ever show up.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's on us as a community. D-Ham is feeling it too, but it's on us as a community to find them and bring them back. And man, you just found them, and I think the answer is in plain sight. Any Genesis adventure, any Genesis mana with a lost item name, bam, it's lore C. That's given me a whole set of work I guess I need to go do. That's my interpretation. I think that anybody who's building derivative projects can do the same kind of thing. If there's something lost in the construct of your game or your art or your story, now there's an entire group of lore C prefixes and suffixes to enable you to find creativity and stories that are native right to the contract.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final thing, just in case that wasn't enough, I also kind of had a look at what the combinations might be with some of the combinations of the name suffixes with some of the specific items. So looking at weapons, for instance, we can see that the Warhammer can never ever have any name suffix or name prefix. The quarterstaff can, but it's always root and so on. So there's one name suffix always associated with each of the weapons. And what I did as an exercise was kind of filled in all of the, I guess, the missing law C suffixes and had a look at what it might look like. And this is what we see, that every single weapon has an associated suffix. I also had a look at the same with all the items, and some of them are less interesting, but I think necklaces is one of the most interesting, in that each of the 3 necklaces are associated with a law. So the necklace would always have a suffix from law C, the amulet always from law A, and pendant always law B. So yeah, I've got a spreadsheet with all of every single item and all of the associated suffixes, which I can share if anyone's interested. But yeah, I would love for anyone else to kind of make their own interpretations of this, or see if there's any other patterns that they can find.
This is such great work. Oh my god. My mind is blown. I actually knew what you were going to share, and you still blew my mind today. Thank you so much for getting so deep and so formal with this.
It's all right. It's great to be a part of all of this.
I want to, if this is your first time hearing about this level of incredible lore, I want to just frame it real quick for anybody. That what we're doing as a community here is, like I said from the beginning, building. And we believe that if we can discover and derive the universal constructs and the foundational lore of the Lootverse, not from just our own brains, but from the actual original OG contract, almost from the 10 Commandments, like from the Rosetta Stone, if we can derive the universal constructs and the lore through that OG contract, and just like is happening right here, we discover it as a community, and then we write that canonical lore back to the blockchain through the projects that are being built, through the Genesis Adventures being one example of that, but there's other examples of writing this lore back to the blockchain. That to me creates seeds and constraints for all sorts of creativity. Characters, art, stories, which to me, those constraints are what we've needed. Those constraints are the thing that set the stage for this infinitely expandable but still cohesive universe. Meaning that if people launch new projects that run counter this foundational lore and run counter to the core universal constructs, they're more than welcome to, and they should, and that's fun as well. But it's probably going to be more fun and more cohesive and more exciting for the Lootverse to have an infinitely expansive yet still cohesive universe. I used this analogy with somebody the other day, but like if you made a Star Wars game and you were introducing the Force into the Star Wars game, you could choose light and dark for your game, or you could choose chocolate and vanilla. And if somebody made a game about the chocolate and vanilla Force, that's kind of cool and funny and welcome, but it's probably not going to be as widely received or widely accepted. What's amazing here is that this is nobody's opinion. What Lockett just shared, if anything, was from Dom's heart and Dom's mind, but not really our opinions. And so this is the light and the dark. This is the Jedis and the Rebel Alliance and the Empire. It is the foundational constructs for this universe. But this universe can be hundreds of generations, thousands of generations, millions of years old, which creates a meta timeline that creates infinite space for creativity. So thank you for sharing this. Even though this felt like so detailed, it's so powerful because these are the constraints that will allow us as a Lootverse to become the Star Wars for the next generation. So thank you.
It's okay. I apologize for anyone who that just went over their heads. So anyone who's not as nerdy about loot lore as I am.
Hey Tim, should we get rings?
Let's do it. Yeah, thank you so much. If there was an applause emoji, I'd give it to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, applause.
Let's pass the rings.
Thank you so much for that work. Amazing.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Jeremy Lockett. That was mind-blowing, and I actually think what I'm going to share is a nice segue. So I've been working on a project called Rings, and one of the superpowers of Loot is that the artwork was intentionally omitted, right? And it's essentially an open source project. So I've been working on visualizing all 8,000 of the rings in Lute. And I'm just going to share my screen here. Oh no, wants me to change my preferences.
Send me a link and I'll share for you. You may have to quit Discord and open back up if it's going to force you to change system preferences.
Yeah, is it cool if I just take 20 seconds to do that?
Sure, yeah, go for it. Maybe Andrew, you can fill the time.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Are we tech difficulty?
We're good. I'm just calling on you to tell a good joke here.
Oh man, I got nothing. Let's see. Okay, so
Okay.
I don't. Oh, here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm back. Cool. Okay, let's try this again.
A mage walks into a bar.
Okay, can y'all see this? Get a yes?
Yes. See it.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Cool. So I just want to break down all the rings in Lute real quick and then go through what we're doing with them. So there are essentially 4 rarity levels of rings. There are common rings. There's about 5,712 of them, and they are just simply gold ring, silver ring, bronze, platinum, titanium, right?
Hey, Jeremy, you're sharing the Discord screen right now. If you mean to share something else,
no.
Share the thing you want to share.
Yeah, I want to share something else. Whoa.
Nice.
Inception.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel when I get into Loot verse. Hold on, stay there. I gotta screenshot that.
The entire screen. There we go. How's that?
There you go.
All right, there we go. Yes, so there are these common rings, right, of the 5 colors. And then there are all the rings of each of the 16 orders. So I have been rendering out and imagining what these could look like. I still have one more to do. And so there are 5 of each color. So you can just quickly, there's like a silver one or a bronze one, etc. of all of these. And then from there, talking about prefixes, there are then 50 legendary rings, and these are 2 of a kind, and they all have a prefix. And we are placing the symbol of that prefix directly on the ring, which I'll cover in a sec. And then finally, there are mythic rings, and there are 720 of these, and these are 1 of 1. And in these renders, we also have the prefix icon embedded and sort of an Easter egg as well for that moment in time. Like this butterfly in the back. And so what I've done is looking at all of those prefixes. It was mentioned that there are 23 symbols in A and 23 in B, and then 6 name suffixes in each, so 12. So we get 46 different prefixes across 12 different name suffixes, creating, I think, 552 of these symbols. So I've gone ahead and attempted to design a logo for every single one of these. And like I said, these will all be embedded correlating to the exact ring from the 8,000 rings in Lute. So a lot of time has been spent rendering all these, and these ones are all rendered individually. So that's kind of a look at the different types of rings. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be dropping our rings in 2 stages. Drop 1 is for those common rings. And what's cool here is the reason we're doing this is, well, first of all, if you own Lute, M-Lute, or a Genesis Adventurer, you can just claim the exact ring matching your bag or your adventurer. If you don't own Lute or M-Lute or an adventurer, you can mint one of these common rings at random. And from there, you can actually take your common rings to a blacksmith, and the blacksmith will forge your ring into one of the epic, legendary, or mythic rings. And so I think it's really cool that you can be able to take those, 2 gold common rings and turn them into like a gold ring of anger, for example. And it will actually burn the gold rings, lowering the supply. And so the way that will kind of work is we'll have a portal where you'll connect your wallet, and it'll look at which loot bags you own, and you'll be able to just straight up mint the exact ring matching your bag. Or if you own those common rings down here, it'll recognize how many you have of those colors. And I'm missing some images here. This is a little work in progress. And you'll be able to forge that epic ring and in return get one of the more rare rings. So anyway, that's a quick look at what we're building. And it's definitely been just a labor of love, and I love this community and everything that's happening. So I'm super pleased to put this out here in the next few weeks. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to give a quick look and appreciate the time.
Jeremy, those are beautiful.
Amazing work, Jeremy. Comments and thoughts from the community. I'm so impressed with this. When I talked to Jeremy the first time, I said, all right, dude, these are physical rings, right? You're going to mail me one in the mail? Maybe the next version, somebody can 3D print them.
Yeah. Well, actually on that, we if there's enough interest, we may end up just open sourcing the 3D files for everyone to use for the 16 orders across all 5 colors. And therefore, you could do all kinds of stuff with them, from putting them in a game on a character to 3D printing them, etc.
Amazing.
I know somebody's got some thoughts and reactions and feedback here. Maybe I'll even call on you, Scott. You're our resident artist of the week here, or more, maybe artist of the month. Thoughts and reactions to this?
Hey, yeah, I just hopped in about halfway through, but everything looks great. They look amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, there's a question here. Neo asks, will they be different symbols than hyperloot prefix suffix? I'm assuming, yeah. I'm assuming they are.
Yeah, it's just based off the original contract.
Yeah.
I see another artist I respect a ton in the mix here. Gramplin, I know if you're banging along and excited, curious to hear your thoughts on this incredible art. No pressure to speak. I want to.
Can't speak.
OMG, I can't speak, but it's great. He's got to keep his mystery. Amazing.
Hey, maybe we go into just kind of open discussion.
Love it.
We're at an hour and 14 minutes, but I can stay on, and I'm still recording. If anyone has any questions about anything, questions for Tim Shell, maybe we can make Tim Shell finish that Divine Mage walks into a bar joke.
One thing I will say is that there's been some chatter in the Discord. Discord's chaos, but there's been some chatter in the Discord and even Twitter yesterday. People trying to dunk on Loot. Oh, Loot is dead. Nobody's working on Loot. No, where is Loot? Where's Loot gone? Loot is happening, and if you're listening to this call later or on this call right now, I hope you feel the energy we feel. I posted this earlier to the Loot Owners channel because somebody was banging back and forth on this topic, and I think sometimes the vibe in the Loot Discord is like, build faster, Loot team, go build something better, go build something faster. Where's all the games for us to play? What do you do with our bags? And I want to call out, like, there is no Loot team. We are the Loot team. The people on this call, the builders, the writers, the artists, the Divine Mage Queen, we are the Loot team. There's no roadmap. There's no team. There's no, I guess there's a treasury now, which is a community treasury, but this is a decentralized project, more decentralized than anything I've seen in NFT land. And so it's on us to build. It's so empowering and so exciting. No team, but we are all the team. And I definitely believe that if we act as a team and act together and manifest joy, like Afar was saying earlier, that we can A, have fun and learn a lot, but B, build something really meaningful together.
Agreed.
I have some discussions around the character classes that I'd like to talk about. If anybody else is interested in that.
Go for it.
Please. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, I was thinking about the the fact that the rings and the necklaces don't have any character class association right now. And one that seems compelling to me is like the amulet, for example. I mean, that is a piece of jewelry that's, you know, instilled with magic, right? That's the definition of an amulet. So it does seem compelling to think about the amulet as being a natural mage item. I was curious about
I actually had a question related to that because I worked on some art for the amulets. And are your icons going to be open source?
I'm not the creator of rings.
Oh yeah, you mean the prefix icons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I plan to put. Yeah, there'll be SVG files that anyone can use.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd be down to incorporate them with the amulet artwork that I've worked on. Tim Shell got a preview a while ago.
So yeah, I was thinking about the amulet having a. Seems like it suggests the amulet might be associated with the mage class from our, like when we broke down the items into 3 different classes: the mage, the hunter, and the warrior. And then when I think about the rings, I mean, a platinum, like the material platinum, is also referred to as, you know, a noble metal, and it's unreactive. And so, in a lot of, you know, like World of Warcraft lore, you know, mages don't wear any metal armor because it interferes with their spells. And so, with that in mind, you know, a platinum material seems to fit really well with the mage as well, because one, it's noble, and the mages have a lot of divine gear, and then also it's unreactive, which means that it would be the least likely to interfere with spell casting. What's your thoughts on that, Tim Shell?
I think it's really interesting. I'm pulling up the Figma here to even like jam with this on the fly, but I think you're saying change this construct from what we had thought about before and break them up. Yeah?
Yeah, because I see 3 as well here. I see gold, silver, bronze being one category, and then platinum being a category, titanium being a category. So there really are 3 categories of rings: gold, silver, bronze as one, platinum, and titanium. And then obviously 3 neck items: the necklace, the amulet, the pendant. And so I think if we can at least convince ourselves that there's a really compelling take on even just one character class, then maybe it helps open things up for the rest of them as well.
I mean, this is for sure a community decision here. Maybe this is a cool decision. The other ones were unquestionable in the way that they flowed out of the armor. This one, I think, maybe took some community discussion. I'm intrigued. I think, let me just try to play it out. Is this your proposal right here?
My computer mic wasn't working, so I had to switch to my phone. So the square is small right now, but I think looking at what you're doing, yep. As long as you assign the mage to platinum, yep. So warrior to gold, silver, bronze, mage to platinum, and hunter to titanium.
Yeah. And I got you on the necklaces too?
Yep, mage with amulet, hunter on pendant, and necklace on warrior.
I mean, I think what you're saying is pretty compelling, but it's not my call. The other stuff, I was just surfacing up what was in the contract that Dom gave us. This one, I don't know. I mean, community, what does everyone think?
I'm biased to be in favor of it just because we're working on the Divine City and wanted to do something with the amulets, so it makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
There is a little bit of contract support to this, and I haven't been able to detail everything out to show it, but you know, if you think about what we just saw with like the name prefixes and think about the greatness levels, we know that the warriors generally don't have a lot of named items, right? The Warhammer is the strongest warrior item, and it doesn't appear as a level 19 or 20, which means it doesn't get a name. And the necklace is also rare in that regard, that it doesn't appear as a named item. The necklaces are all just necklaces. And so when you look at the top warrior items, almost none of them have level 19 or level 20. They're all level 18s. And so the necklace then fits really well into that. Same thing with the amulet, really. If you look at the top mage items, they're mostly all level 19s. You know, like the divine robe only appears as a level 18, greatness 18. Divine slippers, you have level 19, greatness 19 divine slippers, but you don't have level 20 divine anything. There is no +1 divine slippers or divine gloves. Same thing with the amulets. There are no +1 amulets. So there is really, and again, I think, you know, someone like yourself, Tim Shell, could really showcase this even better. But as I really look at this through the lens of a Genesis adventurer, like trying to construct one and thinking what's the most compelling and looking at the options, it seems, yeah, that the contract does actually support this as well, that this wouldn't be purely a like canonical or like derived canon. It would be, the contract is actually telling us this as well. And the other thing that comes out of this is that the demon class is by definition the strongest, because the demon, the hunters, or I should say the hunters, because the hunters are the only ones that have level 20 items for all of their gear. The mages only have level 19s, and the warriors only have level 18s. And that, I mean, that's just the way the data breaks out.
I realize I'd have to fix this math here, and I'm gonna pop you back into a screenshot. And fuck, why don't we vote on it? I mean, we can decide as a group how we vote for our interpretation of canonical lore. This one, I don't know. I kind of see it, but I don't want to be the one to say yes to it. My vote would be just voting with emojis inside of Discord rather than snapshot vote kind of vibe.
Do a live. Let's do a live.
But I mean, if you're on this call, give it a vote. Maybe like, I don't know what the right way to do this is.
Just heart the one you want, or 100.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe we'll put yeses. Like, there's no no's, but why don't we put yeses on both? Hopefully, people understand what's going on.
Yeah, the other fun part about Genesis, right, is we also vote with our GAs. Like, when you construct and compose a GA intentionally, you're also saying that, well, to me, this seems like a compelling composition, and I like that as well. So obviously people can continue to compose GAs using, you know, whatever items they want, but, you know, as someone who spent quite a bit of time looking at different compositions, you know, I really think if someone's building a mage, doing an amulet really helps solidify that composition. But yeah, I mean, the coolest part about Loot is really the lore is the most interesting and fascinating part. So I like when people do things like war hammers and silk slippers, and then they have a funny story behind it, and I think that just adds to the fun.
Yeah, you know what? You've been the connoisseur of Genesis Adventures from the get-go, and I think it was the Warhammer and Divine Slippers that really just sniped you in and say, all right, I gotta comment here, because what are you doing with that Warhammer if you've got Divine Slippers on?
Yeah. I think that was your build too, Tim Shell.
Call me out.
But I think someone created this story where the warrior was sleeping actually and got woken up in the middle of the night, and there was a battle taking place, and so they quickly just grabbed their warhammer and ran outside.
That is too good.
Yeah.
Oh, Sportsbeard's got an idea, an amendment.
Yeah, suggestion here to leave the necklaces as is, but have the rings be everyone.
I'm getting expert.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And the other interesting one is that, per my comment earlier, that if we agree as a community that like the level or greatness of an item is not permanent and that through games you can use your items and level them up, well then the necklace is a level 18 and therefore it does not have a name. When it reaches level 19, it'll get a name. And it's also interesting that the amulet is the level 19 amulets. Like maybe a necklace can become an amulet or a pendant as well, right? Like as it levels up and becomes a level 19, 20 item, maybe it can inherit certain magical powers as well. So I think that also kind of supports what Beard is saying there, that maybe the necklace is intentionally generic as a level 18 item, and once it gains that next, the experience to move to a level 19, it can kind of become, depending on which adventurer is wearing it, kind of incorporate, either magical powers for Mage or, like the powers of a pendant. And then the other thing about the characters right now that I'm trying to figure out, like to me, I really like the idea of a katana with like all like silk gear or even divine gear, like a +1 katana and then all divine gear. To me, is a really compelling build. But it wouldn't be like a perfect, like a full, air quotes, like a full GA at this point, because if you looked at it on Loot Swag or something, it would be like, okay, well, the katana is a hunter item, and then everything else is mage. But I'm thinking if maybe we can find a way to structure it, like it's not such a strict class, and so you're going for just, katana with like the demon husk, etc., for the full hunter, that maybe somehow these elements can be combined, and if they're combined in a very specific way, like again, pulling on like War of Warcraft, you have like a monk, and a monk, likes one-handed blades, so I feel like the GA that's composed of a katana and then a bunch of light silk gear would really fit that the monk class from War of Warcraft. And so when I look at our current character classes, and right now I think a lot of us are compelled to try to build GAs that are, all one type. I think it also does limit our builds quite a bit. And I'm wondering if we can think of ways to expand this so that there's not just 3 classes. There's 3 categories for sure. I mean, there is the metal, the cloth, and the hide. But maybe there's a way to showcase this data in a way that provides for those 3 different types of materials mapping to, say, 10 different actual character classes. And I think that would be good, because if we're all just trying to build the same 3 things, I just don't think the resulting GAs are going to be as interesting and fun.
One thing I will say though, Loot Hero, is that the GAs were the Genesis adventurers from the very beginning. Maybe they weren't full characters themselves. Maybe specialization happened over the years, and this is actually me even channeling some Dom thoughts that Dom threw at me like, I don't know, a month ago or 3 weeks ago when we discovered a lot of this stuff. His vibe was like, each item gives you, an attunement to a certain skill, and that if you're gonna, ride a horse, probably not your divine slippers. If you're gonna be channeling magic, you wear the divine slippers, but you have multiple pairs of shoes. Like everybody's got different tools for different jobs, and so I think it makes sense what you're saying to say Genesis Adventure could have a lot of these items, and they're not just simply a mage or simply a hunter or simply a warrior. They're their own person. Every single one of these characters, even across all of synthetic loot, is its own person with its own unique, and just essentially every synthetic loot is like a one of one. They're their own unique attunements for their own jobs, and so I don't think it has to just be. Maybe I'm speaking too much on this, but I don't think it has to be that the Genesis ones align with classes. I think it's that these classes came later.
I do like. Remember when we got that visual, like that God style visual, gods with a W style visual that had like 3, and then there was like 1 in between each one? I thought that was pretty cool, and I think that's kind of what Loot Hero is getting at. Like, there's kind of these in between attunements. Like, if your bag leans towards, warrior mage. I can't remember the titles. I have no idea where to find it either. Does anybody remember that?
I do remember that.
Actually, I think I had it in a newsletter.
Here, I got you. Here you go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, so I kind
Yeah,
of...
that's really good. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
The guy that made this, who goes by Snuts, has expressed interest. If you want to pop it onto the site, I think he'd be down to contribute it.
This, when I saw this, it almost looked like, I don't know, like an how did I think of it? Like a like a 23andMe for your loot bag. like this is your, like, the historical makeup of your loot bag. But yeah, I don't know. Loot Hero, is this what, like, this kind of goes to what you were getting at, though, right? Like, kind of expanding the character class idea, or like archetype.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
it does, absolutely. Yeah, I think at one point, like in the beginning of Genesis project, it was finding 8 of the same order was difficult enough. So, GAs were getting summoned, and you'd have Warhammer, Silk Slippers, whatever you could get, because there just wasn't much. And now we have more, so people have more options. And it's really cool that the contract provides us with these character classes. But I think right now what I'm seeing is it's too limited almost. And so something like this, I think, is a much more powerful model for the group, because it still provides some level of guidance, for, composing a Genesis adventure or just thinking about these loot items. But, I mean, this immediately doubles it. So now there's not just 3, but there's actually 6, well-crafted, I don't want to say well-crafted, but there's 6 different styles that you could form into if you wanted to. So yeah, this is perfect, and thanks for bringing this up.
I found that quote from Dom that I wanted to throw in the mix that I think follows along with Loot Hero's vibe too. I'm going to just read it out loud. He said, "To me, these items are like uniforms and the, quote, tools for the job that arose. You don't need riding boots for a horse, but they probably help ride a horse at the expense of being terrible for dancing." Thought that was kind of a good way of framing it. It's like every one of these characters is unique, and everybody's got tools for their job, and also their jobs have probably evolved throughout their lifetime too. And so we've just got a snapshot of their moment. These loot bags were discarded in the dust in whatever moment that caused them to become discarded in the dust at the side of the road, and we all found them, and we found them in a current state. But that doesn't mean that this character never before carried a wand, or that this character never before had a different history. And it's kind of on us to take our loot bags and inspect them and discover what they mean, and discover how they fit together, and discover what is this meta timeline, and also what is the universal story that runs through all of loot.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a really great quote from Dom, and I think that's the right way to think about it.
Fun.
All right, well, yeah, that was really it for me. It was just the rings, the necklaces, and then just trying to create a little bit of movement towards expanding just the 3 classes. That, I mean, within just for the Genesis community, just so that there's a little bit more flavor, I think, to what we're all trying to build. And I think if we reference that last graph that just came up, I think that could be really powerful if we built it into like a mana finder tool or something, so that as you're using mana finder to pick your items and compose your GA, and then it shows you like that live view of where that would fall on the spectrum, that could produce really cool Genesis adventures. So I like that.
Well, I'll tell you, Treppers has been quiet on the phone here, but Treppers is the freaking hero of Genesis Project. Him and Tenox, every single line of code has come out of the 2 of them, and our heads have been spinning with how much opportunity there is. But I think the thing you just described is pretty amazing, that the Mana Finder to be upgraded with kind of an attunement ranking visualizer sounds incredible. If anybody wants to raise their hand to help out, it is all open stuff. Either DM me or DM Treppers or find us in Genesis. But I think we're talking Genesis, but what Nate's Loot Hero is talking about is not just Genesis. It's for the entirety of all of our bags, how to think about what they mean. Though ironically, Loot Hero, I know you're trying to open it up, but by adding this construct here, it's going to narrow it down before we open it back up, but that is okay.
I know. I do agree with that a little bit.
I dig it. I mean, we can let the community play it out. We've got maybe 15, 16 votes on this one down here. Part of me wants to do it as a snapshot, but part of me feels like that's too heavyweight given how hard it is to get people to dive into snapshot. But if anybody on this call wants to speak, please, this is a wide open floor. Just unmute yourself. I know I've been taking a lot of space, and apologies for that. I'm just really excited about this stuff, but please, unmute, hop in.
I like that one point, Tim Shell, you had like a nobility. And I feel like nobility is interesting because it's not, I mean, it is a class, but it also seems like you could add nobility. Like if you had a noble item in your bag, then it just grants you a little bit of extra nobility as if it's just like it's like a stat that your character has. And so like applying that to the other things like Mage, well, Mage was just magic. And so the amulet just adds magic to your loot bag or Genesis Adventure, then that doesn't narrow things down as much. Like we're not saying that amulets have to be with mages. We're just saying that if you think that your character, if you think your Genesis Adventure or your loot bag that you have or the one that you're looking for, if you want something with a little bit of magic in it, well then an amulet's a great choice because it naturally has magic. So maybe that's another way to view these is not strictly as a class, but as what that class represents. And the mage is magic generally, and books and wands are magic, so they add magic to your build or your loot bag. And then we just have to think about what that would look like for the hunter. Like what are we adding there? What those hunter items, what do those really represent? Like if I have dragon hide boots, what does that add to my, what am I able to do with those? Like if the wand is magic, the katana is what? And I think if we approached it that way, we also might generate more resulting, compelling Genesis adventurers or just, fun characters from the loot set.
Yeah, and even let S loot. You can derive the exact character you want with S loot. M loot, there's a million M loot bags. You can go derive the characters you're looking through M loot. And I want to pull up Loot Mart. Loot Mart doesn't get enough love, but Loot Mart is amazing. Maybe on the next call, Dham or other folks from the Loot Mart crew might want to chat about it. But Loot Mart is the beginning of something pretty special, and you can definitely unbundle and rebundle through Loot Mart. And if you use this kind of construct for that, that might be a really cool new way of visualizing this. I just want to say, Loot here. I think this is what the first thing you said feels to me like foundational lore and a universal construct that we should agree on and sort of commit to. The interpretation of what the meaning is of how all these items fit together, that's wide open for all of us. And so I think it's on anybody. Write any game you want, create any story you want. This is an open, expansive universe. And so honestly, like the amount of conviction you have about this Loot Hero is pretty incredible. Translating that to action and stories and art and game dynamics through Genesis, like you're working on with me, but everywhere else, everybody's welcome to run with this. And I think everything you just said is a perfect example of that. Cool.
Those
Mike,
reflexes are pretty amazing. I mean, really, that lore C, being reserved for potentially a level 21 item or a level 18, but the fact that it's just like 1920 gets a name and those names are different, and then there's a third set of names that's sitting there, like again, Lost Man is a great use case for that, but it's just really cool that there is just extra things. And I mean, we're still figuring out things from the contract, but the fact that there's just extra space reserved in there for this type of innovation and creativity is really amazing.
Amen. Floor is open for anybody else. Love to see Sharu's on here, Redbeard.
Like a show and tell on time.
Show and tell, yeah. Who's that? Jin, go ahead.
Yeah, can I screen share?
Yeah, let me stop sharing mine.
Okay. Let me know if you can see.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Yeah. So I do VR stuff. Been doing it for like 8 years, and been working with a team. They basically 3D modeled all the loot items.
Oh my god.
So we have, it's all in the open, GLTF format. So they're building a visualizer that you can equip these onto an avatar. And I do a lot of avatar interoperability research and evangelizing of open standards and file formats for such, so you can bring it everywhere. So, planning to right now, like, think of a cool name for the project and, a way to kind of create a treasury to build around a 3D ecosystem, more composable building blocks for creating things out of. Here's a closer look at the weapons.
Jin, holy cow. Oh my goodness. This is amazing.
Thanks. The team that did all the modeling is Webiverse, and Webiverse is building a open source game engine that does VR in the browser, but also working on some other ways to integrate NFTs and other virtual worlds. You can check it out. It's still in alpha, but yeah, the team's amazing, and I'm just pretty excited because there's so much that we could do with 3D assets. And they look amazing too. Although we need some feedback on the robes. The divine robes maybe could use more, I don't know, embroidering or flashiness, but it's all remixable. Thinking, CC0 for everything, right?
Man, I'm blown away. This is incredible.
Look at the detail. Oh my god.
Yeah, Jeremy, we got to connect the dots on the ring stuff too. If you're still on here, maybe we lost him, but connecting the rings art into this would be amazing, and a pretty cool, amazing of collaboration too. If we cross Jeremy's rings into this universe.
Dude, I'm blown away. Like, I did not expect so much detail. Like, they really, you can tell there's just a lot of thought and care into these designs. And try and get a bigger picture of some. Hold on.
Hey, Jin, obviously keep going, but are you around next week to do sort of a proper formal demo of this to maybe kick off the next call?
Sure, so it's the same time?
I think we'll do the same time. Maybe we'll do a quick poll for global audiences who maybe don't love the time right now, but I think this has worked pretty well for a variety of folks. But yeah, this feels like a good time. We'll expect a formal PowerPoint presentation.
Well, actually, it's not a bad idea. I do want to coordinate a lot of building and playing around with these assets. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that and maybe even get a demo going.
Amazing.
Let's see if the world loaded.
Probably don't tell us you're going to show us an interactive loot character in a 3D world right now.
Too soon, maybe.
Too soon.
We'll on that. Yeah, that'll be too dank. But yeah, for now, just I'll save some stuff for next week.
Wow,
know that this is in the works. It's pretty much ready to go. Yeah.
Wow. I gotta pop off. I gotta go pick up my kids. I love you all. I'm gonna do it quietly. You guys can stay on here. We will talk along the way. That was incredibly fun. And thank you for being here, everybody. But keep going. I just gotta pop off. See you later.
Yeah, I'll stay on if anyone wants to chat. I got like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll keep this open for, let's say, for the next 14 minutes. We'll hit 2 hours on the dot. If anyone wants to stick around and just hang out and chat and geek out.
Yeah, I just got here. What else was covered?
What did we cover? We covered Luke character, their second riddle. So that team gave us a little walkthrough, which was fun, and we got some kind of behind the scenes commentary. And we learned about Flute. You missed the Divine Mage was here. You missed a character showed up.
Oh man. This is all like super alpha, not even on Loot Watcher yet.
What I'm talking about?
Yeah.
No. Luke character. It's right there. Luke character's right there.
Gotcha.
Flute should be on there. The Divine Mage is not on Loot Watcher. The Divine Mage is. We don't know where she came from. What else? Rings. We learned. Jeremy talked about rings. I don't know if you've seen rings for Loot.
Are they like 3D, nice 3D renders?
Yes. Search.
I've seen those. Yeah.
You've seen them. Okay. Yeah, that's what Tim Shaw was talking about, like connecting you two.
Very cool. Yeah, I think having nice shots. I was kind of suggesting this to the team, like doing something that looks like a tech product video where it's like those close-up shots, with the glass and everything.
Like a highlight, not a highlight reel. Yeah, highlight.
Glam reel.
Glam reel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And just take some good renders. Right now, these are kind of basic, but there's so many we could show it off, as well as like 360 turntables. Maybe we could even make it sprites.
And you talked about making it, open source. So like, if people could like create their own designs for, I don't know, like I imagine, like I'm thinking of, what was I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of like Manny. I saw like Manny's World today. I saw him like, did his tattoo parlor. You can design your Manny, give your Manny tattoos. Like the idea of like customizing your gear, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking like creating a template for the character, and all of the wearables are all kind of reference remixable that people can just mod and create their own forks. Here's a look at the engine that Webiverse is making also. Like a pretty good avatar system, custom avatars, and you can drag and drop something straight in there. And they're working on a way to, like, if you like kill a monster or something, it can drop some loot or some gold.
Wow.
Wow. It's basically kind of like an open source, set of components to build your own MMO with. And it's all open standards, and that's runs in a browser. It's got VR mode. If you drag and drop like files, whether 3D models or images, whatever, they also show up in the world. Just dropped like an avatar here and like an image. Like, let me drop some loot here. See how it looks like in the world. Assets. I'll drop the divine robes because could use some feedback on the design. Oh, silk robe here. Yeah. Oh, they're nicely optimized too, so they'll work in a lot of different platforms. Okay, so here's
the floating robe.
Like, yeah, they don't really sit on the ground yet. But yeah, you see, you can like walk up to it and hit E. So So that's a way that you can change avatars or wear the loot as well. And for picking up NFTs and stuff, Weverse, this all runs like also on a sidechain. So that like if you slay a monster and pick up the loot, it's not going to cost you more in gas fees than the loot is worth itself, whether it's gold or items.
Oh, so you're saying you could in this virtual space you could pick up an item which would be an NFT, basically. Like it would, like you would connect.
Yeah, it's not here right now, but essentially soon, like everything you look at, have like a little window when you're in this inspect mode to see like metadata about that object. So just kind of pulling directly like who owns it, who created it, or whatever kind of provenance of that object. But yeah, and then you just grab it, go straight in your inventory, no gas fees, and then later you can cross-sign it over to another chain. There's for Polygon and Ethereum at the moment.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then I want all these wearables to work on all the NFT avatars coming out. So like CloneX and Metacrew, I'm documenting all these NFT 3D avatars here as well. So the whole, internet can play this MMO. Got Oni Force.
So your Blitnot could wear a divine robe.
Yeah, that's what we want. Exactly.
Amazing.
Verbal interoperability. And there's a good handful, I think, 3D avatar projects coming out real soon. Bored Apes, they're all getting 3D avatars to them. So essentially, next year it's going to be like summer of 3D, and they're all going to have loot bags by default because of synthetic loot being a thing. And we're working on a demo of doing something with ENS for these, like, you have a 2D PFP and then also can add a record for your 3D avatar NFT as well. That'll be cool. And then that way you can like modify the avatar as well. Maybe mix and match some wearables.
Flip up the crypt. I see Cryptodes on there. We got Grumplin on the call.
Cool. And Cryptodes, I saw them implemented in this pixel game called Web with 2 Bs. They're building like a kind of really cool 2D kind of Gather Town-esque world, but they're really into avatar interoperability with pixel art.
Have you seen you've seen Hyperloot, right?
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. I'm just imagining those will be cool. Oh, Grumplin gives a heart in the chat. Yeah, those would be cool to imagine like in this virtual world.
Yeah. One thing I kind of wrote about it, it's for game dev assets, what you really want are either sprites. So like Forgotten Runes Wizards did it where you got a sprite sheet, or you have a 3D model, a full 3D model, and that way you can animate it, so not too many assets are ready, like game dev ready. With a 3D model, though, you can generate the sprites as well. I'm working on a pipeline, so you can basically generate the sprite sheet for any of these avatars with the walk animation, so that should help out things. But not everything's going to be your avatar. Some things are going to be your companions, or pets, kind of like Pokemon. So yeah, this devlog isn't just exclusive to avatars, but it's going to be exciting. Once people see these characters with loots equipped on them and virtual worlds and cinematic like content, I just think that's going to be super cool for bringing this kind of maker builder bottom up DIY like composable remixable.
Yeah, it feels like the next
culture.
Feels like the next evolution, like the next big moment.
Yeah, like Loot has this really cool building community culture ethos that game dev needs. And there's not a lot of CC0 game dev assets out there. So I think it's a really great way as well to push avatar interoperability and wearable interoperability further.
Love it.
Super excited. I'll save the rest for next week with the dank demo to share with y'all.
Awesome. All right, I think we're at an hour 56. I think unless anyone else has anything.
Could I say something if there's just a couple minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the creator of banners. I know Tim and I have gone back and forth a little bit. We're sort of new to the loot first, but we think we've built a pretty cool society layer that sort of slots in with a lot of the other Loot Watcher projects. And I was just wondering if you guys had any maybe suggestions to present, I guess, what we've done to your team and other people.
Yeah, well, I think why don't we we can have you do kind of a walkthrough next week if that's cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll just slot you in. I think that's what we want these calls to be for, like show and tell, just kind of surface ideas and projects for everyone.
It's 2 p.m. Pacific?
2 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, it'll be 2 p.m. Pacific next Wednesday.
Awesome.
I know it's a week away, but I think, we got a lot of people on this call today.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Awesome. All right. With that, I'm going to end it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, for sharing, for commenting in the general comments. And I'll see you in the Discord, on Twitter, and next week. Thank you.